Okay, so I have completed the trading post for July. Before I go over what I did and all of that, I wanted to mention the news that um, was data mined that traders tokens, which is the currency you need, of course, for all of the items for the trading post. It was data mined, at least at as far as I'm aware at this point. It was data mined that it might be traders tokens might be available on the store. Now, what I found interesting about this is I'm not going to um, argue about what should or shouldn't be on the store. I think it speaks for itself. People said when they started putting cosmetics on there that was kind of the beginning of the end. People said when they put the trading post in the game that was kind of the beginning of the end. Um, what struck me as somewhat ironic was the first trading post video I made was called "Can you buy everything at the trading post?" And that was what I wanted to see is if just through um, a bit of grinding, a bit of just in-game playing, could you continuously earn traders tokens to purchase everything each month, or would it have to be like you get some stuff one year and then stuff another year? Because I assume every month will be somewhat the same, like the holidays we have throughout the year. And then the second month was even worse. Of course, figuring out that you could not buy everything in 1 month, and that was even factoring in the one-time inaugural bonus that you got. So the second month was even worse than the first. Um, and the ironic part for me was people didn't seem to see. I don't know that I necessarily thought they were going to put stuff on the store. I don't know that I thought that was the direction they were going, but it seemed like they were setting up for something else. There were mounts, transmogs, weapons, everything people tend to farm in raids and dungeons and throughout the various patches and expansions and all that. Um, Achievements. If you remember Argus, there were achievements for weapon appearances, things like that. The artifact weapons, of course, appearances, things like that. It seemed like just giving people a cap on a currency, go by what you want this month, and then try again next year wasn't going to be the straightforward way it was going to be. And people didn't seem to see the issue with that or what could become of that. And I think that's an interesting commentary, I'll say, on where the community is or how the community views things at this point. Um, there were other videos I saw that had somewhat commented, maybe not exactly in the same way, but commented on you kind of had to pick what you were going to buy that month, and that didn't seem like perhaps the best way of doing this because this is supposed to be. I would make the statement this is supposed to be mostly for fun. There's no benefit as far as the expansion. We could be in a different expansion and it doesn't affect anything. Um, so I thought that was just kind of ironic and somewhat interesting as far as how the player base seemed to interpret that. Because we go through this every expansion, every patch, something happens, it's time gating, it's one thing or another, and people are like, wait a minute. It seems like there's a bit of a kind of two sides. There's one side that kind of hopes for the best, plans for the worst, and then another side that's just kind of more um, sheep that just follow wherever the game goes, so to speak. They don't really seem to see the pitfalls before they come. So, that all being said, um, July was interesting. The other interesting thing was they changed the amount of points that you need for your bonus reward from 1,000 up to 1,400. So, it didn't really seem to make a big difference. It was just kind of annoying. Um, I saw at least one other person say the same thing after they'd completed it. They didn't realize that it had changed, and then, you get fixed on, at this point, kind of going through your regular, doing your regular stuff, your dungeons, your PvP, all of that. One thing I will say I do like about the trading post is that first of the month, that's when it starts. It doesn't start on that first reset day, beginning of the month, or anything like that. First of the month, that's when it starts. So it tends to work well, in most cases, at least for me, with doing your weekly stuff, your Mythic Plus, Dungeons, PvP, all of that. Um, so you can get it done pretty quickly especially if you're in a guild, or you have people that you do stuff with. Um, Even typically doing it more on your own, as I tend to, um, it tends to go pretty quickly. Usually takes me, couple 2-3 days, and then I'm usually done for the month, and then I can go on and go back to doing my regular stuff. So, um, that being said, so I made it a point of I didn't want to do any of the PvP stuff this time. Because PvP's just kind of been all over the place. I haven't really been enjoying PvP in Dragonflight so far when I've tried to do it. Um, Mythic Plus has been going well. I've been having fun doing that, so I wanted to try to do that. Normally, the kill 50 or defeat 50 dungeon bosses and the complete, well, 5 and then 15 Mythic Plus dungeons is usually a grind. The 5 usually is pretty easy. The 50 bosses and the 15 dungeons is usually a grind. Since I've been doing Mythic Plus dungeons to push my rating, I thought, well, that should kind of go hand in hand and make things a little bit easier. So I focused more on that. I actually went out and did some questing. I'm getting better with doing more of the questing achievements. Um, and then there were a couple things that I just kind of did by accident. So, Midsummer Fires Festival, Steal the Flame. And that's the other thing. There were a lot of events and stuff. Time Walking, the Midsummer Fire Festival, that were kind of going on. Some things were at the first of the month, some things were at the end of the month. In the past, what I've noticed is a lot of the events that are tied to the trading post are more towards the end of the month, and I don't prefer to wait until the end of the month. I prefer just to do it at the first of the month, get it over with, and as I said, kind of go back to whatever I was doing. So it kind of worked out well this month because there were different things going on at different times throughout the month. So of course the Dark Moon Fair was at the first of the month. Usually goes hand in hand with the trading post. Um, Sooner or later, depending on when the Dark Moon Fair um, starts. So the Midsummer Fire Festival, Steal the Flame. So you have to go to the opposite faction, either um, Orgrimmar or Stormwind. You have to steal their flame. Then you get a quest, and you have to bring that back to your capital. So would highly recommend you do this on an alliance character and go steal the hordes. The horde is just wide open with no guards around. The alliance is next to the stockades, so there are guards everywhere. I tried a couple times on a level 60 character and got killed before I even could click the flame. Obtain flight stones. This was one I got just by doing dungeons. 400, pretty simple. Defeat a Dragon Isles World boss. This one I've started doing um, every month. It's a pretty easy one to get. And then a couple fishing ones. Fish in the Broken Isles, 50 fish. Fish in Duratar. Draenor, not Duratar. Draenor. There we go. Catch 50 fish. And then earn reputation throughout Dragon Isles. This was one I also got by accident. This also works for multiple characters. So I went to do the 15 world quest. I went and did 5 on one character, and then swapped over and did basically some of the same 5. I think there were some that were different. Different level characters have different quests available to them. So went back, did another 5, and then waited for the reset, and then went and did another 5, and this was done. So pretty simple to get doing it that way. Create Shadowflame Crest. So I was actually holding off from last month. I noticed this. So again, doing Mythic Plus dungeons. I have quite a few. It doesn't matter what kind of a flame crest it is. So as long as you have enough, you can make 3. So I did this right away. This might have even been the first thing I did for the trading post this month. Of course, complete 15 world quests. Complete 30 quests. This was really simple this time because I started going out and doing quests in Ungoro Crater. And then I realized there were Midsummer Fires Festival. There was a bonfire. So I ended up just going down on a Horde character. I went to the Eastern Kingdoms because you'll have 2. You'll have yours, and then you'll have the opposite faction. So you can get a quest for yours and then extinguish the opposite factions. So I just went down the Eastern Kingdoms just one by one until I had 30 quests done. And that was most of the Eastern Kingdom, and of course got me to 30 quests within an hour or 2. Wasn't all that bad just flying around. As long as you have max flying, that is the only thing I would suggest. And then complete 5 Mythic Plus dungeons. So with all those together, they were either 200, 150, or 100. It's disappointing they don't actually show you. So, and then the mount. So it was interesting, the mount choices. So if you didn't get Tyrell's Charger from the Treasure Goblin event, the Diablo 4 event, which is how I got it, you can get it through the trading post. So I think this was a really neat idea for people that maybe didn't have the time to farm it or just weren't that lucky, because it was quite a few. I want to say 60-ish comes to mind. Somewhere in there that it took me to get mine roughly when I figured it all up. And then the interesting one was the Netherwing Drake is a Dragonriding Mount. So, which I guess makes sense since they are introducing dragon riding to the old world zones. So, we will open the crate. There we go. There's the 1200 trader tokens. So,
preparations have been made.
They did mention you were going to get 200 more.
Our allies.
Safe journeys.
This time.
I have many goods for you to see.
So, there's not actually all that much I care to get this time around. I was kind of looking at... So, let me go through here. So, there's Transmog. There's the Spectral Cub, which I believe... I could be completely wrong. I want to say this was a trading card pet. The green recolor of the Amber Scorpion from Mists of Pandaria. I have the rep and I never bought it. It's like 10,000 gold. I could never bring myself to spend that much on a mount, and I don't know that I'd actually use it. That's the thing. I have a PvP version of this, and I never use it. So I like the recolor. I like that they're putting variations of this in because there's not that many of these. Now, I kind of did want this staff until I noticed it was 600. I am not paying 600 for a staff. Albeit a somewhat very nice staff, I do like the animation on it. I am not paying 600 for a staff. And then a sword. The weapons were, I thought, a little bit plain in some regards. Now that kind of has a nice animation there. That is a two-handed mace. And then I think it's repeating the shield. I'm pretty sure the shield was part of the first trading post. Seems like first or second. So I thought that was interesting. When I clicked on it and it said I already had this, I was like, wait a minute, what? And yeah, so I'm pretty sure that was the first one. And then have a couple helmets. Some people I could see really going all out for the helmets. And then you have a sword. I'm pretty sure this is a recolor of one that's already in the game from Wrath. I want to say. It drops from a dungeon if I'm thinking of the right one. Another staff. Now that's a very modest staff. I'm pretty sure there's an NPC that has this staff. Kind of like that. And then of course your typical head and cloak, which I'm actually starting to find a use for, as you can see by my Invoker's transmog there. Cloak, polished sword. So as I said, kind of a plain, I kind of like this. I imagine if you did role-playing, these more plain kind of transmogs are probably a bit more helpful than some of the more animated ones. And then just a mace that looks like it's from Draenor. So yeah, kind of an org kind of looking mace. So I want to get, of course, the vestments. So we'll just get those out of the way. There we go. Well, I guess it's an ensemble. I said vestments. There we go. I kind of mismatch the hood and the cape because I don't particularly care for the tattered cape, but I do like the more full length, kind of more square cape. So and then from there I don't really know. So do I want to get this now, or do I just want to hold on to my tokens? I might just hold on to my tokens. Yep, already got the mount, so not really. I'm very tempted to get the pets. Might have to think about that. I don't do anything with pets is the problem, other than collect them. I keep telling myself I'm going to do something with pet battles. I have the add-on. I've made the teams. I just don't do anything with it. Every time that it's a weekly quest, I tell myself I'm going to start doing something with it. Like I said, don't really want the scorpion. I am close to getting my next mount reward for collecting mounts. And yeah, as nice as a staff as that is, I am just not paying that. I'm sorry, I just can't bring myself to do that. Don't really use two-handed swords all that much. Don't really use two-handed maces all that much. Shields, I tend to collect shields. I like shields. The helmets don't really make sense with anything else. I bought the transmog set, the Valkyrie set, the Stormheim inspired set, a trading post or so ago for my priest, and I have my mage. My mage has it, and there's horns on the helmet, and I have mixed feelings about it. I liked the overall transmog. The horns at the time didn't really. I thought, okay, it's just part of the whole Stormheim. It's kind of a Vikings kind of a inspired area. I don't know. Do I want the staff? I might grab the staff. I've been doing stuff on my druid. That might be a nice staff for my druid or my warlock, one of the two. Yeah, go ahead and get the staff. Why not? There we go. And then I've got the cloak hood. I've got blue cloaks since I've played as Alliance quite a bit, so don't really wear shirts, so. And then the mace. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. So think about I could just get this so it's not just sitting there all the time. Because this is male. So yeah, might just get that one up. Get it over with. There we go, and still have 500. So yeah, I feel good about that. So now, is there anything else I want to freeze for another time? You know what? I'm going to freeze the cub. Are you sure you want to replace your current frozen item? Yes, because I purchased it. So, yeah. I like that. I could see getting the tiger. It's a cat, right? Cub. Tiger. Cub. Yeah, cat. I could see getting that at some point. So, yeah. So, there we go. So, yeah. Good about that. So now I'm curious.
Luck be with you.
Yep, and it shows up right there. Okay. Cool. Since I've played, since I've been playing my Evoker more, I might actually use this now. So, in fact, I play all three classes: Hunter, Shaman, and Evoker. So, since I figured out kind of the healing and the damage, I'm curious to see what augmentation's going to be like. So, yeah. Even if I don't like that, I'm pretty happy with preservation, so I can see going back to preservation for a healer. So, yeah. So there you go, folks. You have unopened items in your... Oh, it's the... yeah, it's the mount. Yeah, and there we go. Kind of glad they did the Nether Wing. I've tried doing the quest for those in Outlands, and it is a bit of a pain, so... Yeah, kind of like that, especially since they are adding dragon riding to the old world zones. So, yeah. So there you go, folks. Hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.